It's hard to deny. The more we watch the news, the heavier our minds tend to feel. A few minutes of headlines can somehow turn into a storm of worry and unease. It's not just about the stories themselves, but the emotional weight they carry, the kind that lingers long after the TV is off or the screen goes dark. People start to notice that their thoughts get busier, their sleep gets shorter, and a quiet tension builds beneath the surface. It's like the world's troubles sneak in through the cracks and settle somewhere deep inside. But why does this happen? And more importantly, can we really protect our peace while staying informed about what's happening around us? The ancient Stoics had a few things to say about this kind of mental turmoil. They lived in a time just as chaotic as ours: wars, politics, plagues, yet they managed to keep their inner calm. Marcus Aurelius, one of Rome's greatest emperors and Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But Stoicism isn't only about ignoring the world or controlling what's in your head. It's also about learning how to stand in the middle of chaos without letting it sweep you away. The Stoics practiced mental habits that help them filter noise from truth, emotion from reason, much like training the mind to breathe slowly while the world holds its breath. So maybe the real question isn't just, why does watching the news make us anxious? But how can we face the endless flow of information without letting it poison our peace of mind? Can we learn, like the Stoics did, to stay aware but unshaken, to watch, understand, and still remain calm inside? That's the path worth exploring, not by turning away from the world, but by learning how to look at it differently. If this kind of reflection made you pause for a moment, if it felt like a mirror held up to your own thoughts, then don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button and stay with us as we dig deeper into the Stoic way of mastering the mind in a chaotic world. Drop a like if you've ever felt the weight of too much news, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us how you keep your peace when the world feels loud. Let's build a space where calm minds meet deep ideas, one video at a time. Number 1. Focusing too much on negative events. It's no secret that most news today feels like a steady stream of disasters, wars, scandals, crises, and tragedies, all flashing across our screens. You sit down for a few minutes to catch up, and before you know it, your heart's racing, your shoulders are tight, and somehow the world feels darker. The irony? Most of those events never touch your actual life, yet they weigh on your mind like they happened right next door. Our brains are wired to notice danger. It's what kept our ancestors alive. But in a world where the danger comes from a glowing screen instead of a wild animal, that same instinct can quietly turn into chronic anxiety. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They knew that what we give our attention to shapes how we feel. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He wasn't talking about social media or 24-hour news cycles, but he might as well have been. When you constantly feed your mind stories of pain, corruption, and chaos, your imagination starts to live in that world. You begin to expect the worst, not because it's happening, but because it's what your mind has been rehearsing every day. The Stoics taught that attention is a form of energy, and wherever it goes, the rest of you follows. Imagine a man sitting in a dark room, staring at a small, flickering candle. He complains that life is dim, but he never once thinks to open the window. That's what focusing on negative news does. It makes the whole world seem smaller, gloomier, and less hopeful than it really is. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are soaked in fear and outrage, your inner world takes on those same colors, and slowly, anxiety becomes your default setting. The Stoics believed that peace of mind isn't about avoiding reality. It's about seeing it without distortion. Watching the news doesn't have to drain you, but you need to decide how deeply you let it in. Balance awareness with inner calm. The more you train your mind to look beyond constant negativity, the more space you create for reason, resilience, and quiet strength, the very things that make a person unshakable no matter what's on the screen. Number 2. Disrupting sleep cycles. It's a familiar story. You decide to check the news one last time before bed, just a quick scroll. But suddenly, your mind is racing. There's a new crisis, a tragic headline, a heated debate that pulls you in. The room is quiet, but your thoughts aren't. You turn off the screen, yet your brain keeps replaying what you just saw. Minutes turn into hours, and by the time you finally fall asleep, it's not rest, it's escape. What's supposed to be a moment of peace becomes another loop of worry, leaving you groggy and tense the next morning, ready to repeat the cycle all over again. The Stoics knew that rest wasn't just about closing your eyes, it was about calming your soul. Seneca once said, "The mind must be given rest, it will rise stronger and keener after a little repose." But when your head hits the pillow full of other people's chaos, your inner world doesn't rest, it wrestles. Your brain keeps solving problems that aren't yours, arguing with people who aren't even in the room, living through tragedies you'll never touch. The Stoics would call this a waste of life's most precious resource, attention. Because every bit of energy spent worrying about distant storms steals peace from the one place you could have found it, your own night. Imagine an ancient Roman philosopher sitting by lamplight writing letters about virtue and balance, and then picture you lying in the dark, glowing phone in hand, absorbing the world's noise. The setting's different, but the struggle's the same. The Stoics didn't have screens, but they faced their own news, rumors of wars, politics, plagues. Their wisdom was to begin and end each day with reflection, not reaction. Marcus Aurelius would journal at night, not to consume the world, but to empty it out, to release what clung to his mind, so he could wake clear and steady. That's the lesson modern minds can borrow. If you end your day with panic, your sleep becomes an extension of your anxiety. But if you close the day like a Stoic, grounding your thoughts, detaching from noise, returning to what's simple and real, sleep becomes medicine, not escape. In a world that never stops talking, peace belongs to those who choose when to listen and when to let go. Number 3. Inducing fear of the future. Turn on the news for just 5 minutes, and suddenly tomorrow looks like a battlefield. Economies are collapsing, disasters are multiplying, and the world feels one step away from chaos. It's as if every headline whispers the same message: be afraid of what's coming. Before long, your mind starts rehearsing tragedies that haven't even happened yet. You lie awake, not because of what is, but because of what might be. That's how fear quietly colonizes your future, by turning imagination into an enemy. The Stoics understood this psychological trap long before 24-hour news cycles existed. They called it premeditatio malorum, the contemplation of potential misfortunes, but they didn't mean constant worrying. Instead, they practiced imagining challenges calmly and rationally, to prepare the mind, not poison it. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The Stoic goal wasn't to ignore uncertainty, but to look it in the eye without trembling. They believed the future is never the problem, our panic about it is. Think about it. Your grandparents lived through wars, shortages, and real chaos, yet they didn't wake up to breaking news notifications every hour. Today, we don't face danger the same way, but our brains think we do. A constant stream of what-ifs convinces the body it's already under attack. That's why people feel exhausted, tense, or hopeless even when nothing directly threatens them. It's not the events themselves that drain us, it's the non-stop anticipation of disaster. A Stoic approach to the future isn't blind optimism. It's grounded courage, the quiet decision to face what comes, one day at a time. The Stoics would tell us that peace doesn't come from predicting the future, but from being steady enough to meet it when it arrives. When you live like that, the world can shout, "Something bad is coming," and you'll simply breathe, look around, and say, "Maybe, but I'll be ready." Number 4. Getting stuck in the news anxiety cycle. Have you ever noticed how the more you check the news, the worse you feel, yet somehow you can't stop checking it? It's like scratching a mosquito bite. You know it'll only make it worse, but you do it anyway. You scroll, watch, refresh, looking for reassurance, maybe even for hope, but instead, you just feed the unease. Before you realize it, the news has become both the cause and the cure of your anxiety. You look for calm inside the very thing that's disturbing your peace. The Stoics would call this a loop of disturbance, a mental trap where emotion fuels behavior and behavior fuels emotion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The more your mind is painted with worry, the more everything you see starts to match that color. This cycle is not just about the news, it's about attention. The more we give our attention to chaos, the more chaotic our inner world becomes. The Stoics taught that attention is sacred currency. Spend it on fear, and you buy fear. Let's make it more relatable. Imagine someone trying to quit coffee but sipping just one more cup every hour. That's what happens when we promise ourselves, "I'll just check the news one last time." Each headline gives a quick jolt of adrenaline, a false sense of control, followed by the crash of helplessness. Your mind starts craving the next update, hoping it'll bring relief, but it never does. It's a self-sustaining storm. Fear creates curiosity. Curiosity fuels more fear. From a Stoic point of view, breaking this loop isn't about ignoring reality. It's about reclaiming balance. Epictetus taught that peace isn't found by hiding from the world, but by training the mind to remain still while the world shouts. In practice, this means learning to pause before reacting, to let silence interrupt the scroll. Because once you stop feeding the cycle, you realize something powerful. It wasn't the news holding you captive, it was your own attention. Number 5. Sudden shocks. You know that jolt you feel when a breaking news alert flashes on your screen? That instant rush in your chest before you even know what's happened? That's not just information hitting you. That's a shock, a psychological lightning strike that leaves your nervous system buzzing long after the headline disappears. The modern news cycle thrives on these jolts. Every breaking or urgent is designed to hijack your emotions, not inform you calmly. It's not the event itself that shakes you. It's how suddenly it's dropped into your day without warning or emotional preparation. The Stoics, centuries before smartphones, understood this reaction deeply. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He meant that it's not just the event, but the shock of being mentally unprepared that causes most of our distress. When the mind is caught off guard, it magnifies everything. A minor danger becomes a catastrophe. A single event feels like the end of the world. That's what the constant news alerts do to us. They keep our minds unsteady, always waiting for the next hit of fear. Imagine this. You're sitting quietly, drinking your morning coffee, and suddenly your phone vibrates. Explosion in city center, stock market crash, new global threat. You haven't even processed the last headline before the next one hits. It's like someone's constantly slamming doors inside your head. The Stoics believed the key to emotional strength was preparation, not paranoia, but readiness. Marcus Aurelius would start his mornings by reminding himself that the day might bring chaos, anger, or misfortune. That way, when it arrived, it didn't shake him. It just confirmed what he already expected. So, from a Stoic perspective, the way to handle these sudden shocks isn't to hide from the world, but to steady the mind before the storm. It's like strengthening a ship before it sails, not during the tempest. The world will keep throwing headlines your way, that's its nature. But when you train your mind to expect the unexpected, every breaking news loses its power to break you. Number 6. News addiction. There's a strange irony in modern life. We scroll through the news to feel informed, but end up feeling overwhelmed. You tell yourself you'll just check the headlines, and before you know it, half an hour's gone, and your chest feels tight. It's not just information overload, it's emotional overload. The constant flow of crisis, conflict, and chaos becomes like a drug. Every refresh gives a new hit of adrenaline or outrage. And just like any addiction, it leaves you restless when it's not there. The Stoics would have seen this pattern for what it is: dependency on external stimulation. Epictetus might have said that we've traded the silence of the mind for the noise of the world. They believe that too much engagement with things beyond your immediate life weakens the soul, not because the world is bad, but because attention is sacred. When you spend your day chasing the latest updates, you're training your mind to react, not to reflect. You stop being a thinker and become a collector of worries. Imagine a person who spends every morning watching the news with coffee. At first, it's harmless, just staying up to date, but over time, they can't start the day without it. If they miss the morning broadcast, they feel uneasy, disconnected, like something's missing. That's not awareness anymore. That's dependency disguised as responsibility. The Stoics would call this a kind of enslavement of the mind, where peace is no longer self-created but borrowed from the next scroll or headline. Seneca once warned, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." In our age, that means when your attention is scattered across every breaking event, you lose the quiet strength of being present. The Stoic alternative isn't ignorance, it's moderation. Stay informed, yes, but not consumed. Learn to step away, to let silence be part of your mental diet. Because sometimes, the wisest thing you can do for your peace isn't to know more, it's to stop feeding the noise. If you've stayed with me until the end, take a moment to appreciate what that means. It shows you're not just hearing about awareness, you're actually practicing it. You pause the endless scroll long enough to think, to breathe, to reflect. That's something the Stoics would admire deeply, the courage to look inward instead of outward. So before you go back to your feed, try this. Take a quiet minute, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what deserves my attention today? Because, in the end, peace of mind isn't found in the news. It's found in the spaces between the noise.